So thank you, Mark, for joining us. And we're doing another episode, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called Share Your Story. And
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who are just tuning in, we're here with Mark Anthony Williams, and he is the HSE manager at the Walsh Group, right? And Mark, I was hoping that you could share with us, from starting in safety,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say was the way that you became a safety professional and made you pursue a career in safety?
Originally, I was in an engineering track, and I came all the way from Trinidad for this, right? I grew up in Trinidad. My family let me come across here by myself, and while sitting in a class, I kind of felt out of place. I looked around the room and I looked at all the other future engineers, right? And I didn't feel like it was where I was supposed to be. Now, if you know anything about Caribbean parents, or especially Caribbean fathers, right? They don't consider you a success or that you have a career unless you're a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, an accountant. And my dad was he went to school for accounting, right? So he was an accountant by trade. My dad always used to tell me a rising tide raises all ships. And I heard that from so many people, and I always ask those people, what advice would you give a young man? And I started doing it kind of as a joke, but then I realized that it was a good way to get someone's input about their life experiences, and that was something that stuck out to me. So if I was gonna devote the next 4 years of my life, or even beyond that, to a field, I wanted to make sure that it was a field with a lot of opportunities, future opportunities, that it wasn't exhausted yet. So I completed my degree in environmental studies from FAMU, and I worked in corporate America. I started off as a EHS specialist at Amazon, and I just said yes to everything, right? At this point, I'm thinking, well, how do I be the best there is? I want to be the very best EHS professional there is. And my mindset was, if I aim to be the very best there is, then I will become hopefully one of the best, there was, right? Maybe not the best, but I would become pretty good at this. And why would I want to do something that I wasn't thrilled about? And why would I not want to be, good at something that I was thrilled about? So I kind of doubled down. I went back to grad school. My first grad school, ironically enough, I flunked out. It was kind of hard juggling school and work, and I was working some crazy hours. I was working 60 hours a week, and I got put in a lot of projects where I got to travel a lot, see different facilities, see different blueprints of warehouse and distribution. Um, so I got a lot of real world experience in safety very, very quickly. And I got to build programs, implement stuff, come up with solutions. One of the biggest things that stood out to me very, early was that I would need to build relationships and earn trust, but also, I would have to find a way to link the compliance and regulatory requirements to practical solutions. And the more I can do that, the happier, everyone involved would be. So it wasn't just a do as I say, it was more so, how can I make this easy to do? But I didn't give up either. With regard to school, I made a plan. So I went back and I did my ASP, and then I enrolled in another grad program. This time I realized that I had more of a curiosity for the business aspect. And I really wanted to also get into sustainability, right? Because at this point, after having an environmental background, I started thinking about sustainability and how it relates to businesses. So I got into an MBA program with a focus on sustainability and environmental compliance. And a year and a half, 2 years flew pretty quickly. I did it part-time while working. Meanwhile, I got recruited into a consulting firm that specialized in environmental health and safety. And that was probably one of the best decisions of my life, best opportunities, because being exposed to so many different industries so quickly, so many different types of businesses, companies. One day I'm in manufacturing, next day I'm in assembly, the next day I'm in a chemical plants, the next day, I'm dealing with a company that is doing a lot of welding. So it was a great mix and a high learning curve. And there's a Latin saying, ancora imparo. Have you ever heard of that before? Ancora imparo. Yeah. So, I took that to heart and I never really gave up. I just sort of kept going. My goal is and has always been to be a EHS director or a director of risk and compliance. And when I had done my research about, okay, how far can this career go? That was pretty much where the mountain was. So I went back to EKU and I did my Master's of Science in Safety, Security, and Emergency Management, as well as safety management, safety leadership, right? And I think that was probably one of the best decisions I made because it went beyond just simply compliance, and it taught me safety as a leadership skill, right? It taught me how to earn trust with people. It taught me how to communicate effectively. It taught me how to treat safety as a culture more so as just some requirements on paper. And that, treating safety as a culture, it really gets people more involved because at the end of the day, this is a people business. And you stop looking at people as simply just numbers or human capital. Everybody has a life, everybody has a right to go home in the same way they came to work. So it definitely motivated me to go above and beyond in my job and learn a lot more.
That sounds like quite the journey that you came through your school, starting with a scholarship that you are actually on the engineering track. And then from that, and doing a little bit of research, you actually
Mhm.
fell into environmental and then health and safety. And so
Yeah,
now you said that you're doing construction safety,
correct. Yes,
after your
construction safety,
journey. What I
particularly with water facilities, the construction of wastewater facilities and water treatment facilities.
Is there been anything that has really influenced you over the years? Be it a book, a person, music, you know, what has kind of shifted and grown your passion over the year and influenced you to where you are now?
I think as an immigrant, I see things a little bit with an external point of view. When I was trying to start my career and looking for a job, I would go to a lot of staffing agencies, temp agencies, and I wasn't afraid of doing, labor as long as I can make ends meet. And I got to work during that period of interviewing and going to job interviews and whatnot. I got to work with a lot of other immigrants, going at 6 a.m., waiting at a labor ready or staffing agency and waiting to be picked for a job. And it'd be a variety of jobs. Sometimes it would be roof work, sometimes it would be helping with casting cements, sometimes it'd be um, gosh, it was a lot of different things. It was never the same thing. But one thing that kind of stuck out to me was that, the immigrant workers, we would do whatever it takes to get the job done. We work very hard. And obviously when you're working very hard and you just kind of determined to do the best job possible, sometimes you put yourself um I'd say ahead of protecting yourself. Like for some reason, you may think that trying to protect yourself may slow you down or prevent you from working hardest. And you're trying to make a really good impression because, like your work is your signature and you want to be called back for more work. So you're willing to cut corners, you're willing to allow people to compromise you as long as the job got done. And I didn't think that was right, right? I didn't think that was right. I realized that every worker has a right to a safe environment. It doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It just matters that you want to work hard. You want to support your family, you have your own personal motivations for development, and you want to contribute to making a better society.
So I'm interested in something that you said was putting yourself ahead of protecting yourself. That'll slow you down or prevent you from working your hardest.
Hmm.
You know, that is a cultural belief in North America, it seems, in the workforce.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm wondering, in your experience, where do you think that belief or value has come into the workplace, because that is a big challenge for us
Mhm.
if people view that they should put their own self-care second.
I think that especially in any society that runs on capitalism, we tend to equate sacrifice with hard work. But I would dare say that not all sacrifice is good sacrifice, right?
Mhm.
One, two, rest and recovery. That is a part of progress, right? And you can work as hard as you can, but if you don't plan well, then all of that work may be for nothing.
Yeah.
So while it is important to work very hard, and sacrifice is a component of working very hard, in many, many cases, the majority, I'd say that the biggest piece is making sure that the hard work you're doing is worth it and that you've planned well. And I think in North America, the traditional definition of hard work has always kind of come at the expense of some sort of sacrifice, be that your time, your effort, your sweat, your health,
Mhm.
working to the bone until you're tired, exhausted. And I see a lot of people, especially minorities, who they believe that that is kind of the gateway to getting ahead.
Mhm.
Like, if I just work hard enough, I may just have enough to meet this bill or get ahead or put my kids through college and I think that a big part of that is, not just thinking about what you're doing in the present, but looking ahead and making a plan to increase your capacity and take baby steps towards a bigger goal.
Yeah, no, I think there's something there that it's definitely something that's ingrained in our thinking. I
Mhm.
remember many times working late, overworking, missing my own birthday, because of a duty of work.
Mhm.
And what you don't hear is a lot more in that work site level
Yeah,
about taking care of self.
it's
It
true.
it's all it I remember doing shift work that if you weren't able to make a shift because of something, then you might be actually sacrificing being able to get more shifts,
Exactly.
because
That's exactly it.
the supervisor would not put you on the schedule.
He wants someone who's loyal and hardworking, is going to give their all. But I think about this, right? I
But is
wouldn't
it
want somebody
really?
who's going to
Is
just
that
give their all. I want somebody who's going to be efficient.
Yeah, but my question is that really somebody who is loyal and giving it their all, or is that somebody who is marginalized and in fear that if they don't do it, then they're going to be penalized?
I think everyone's afraid of something.
Mhm.
Um, Personally, have you ever heard of, quiet quitting?
Mhm.
People just doing the bare minimum for their job, so to speak,
Yep.
or doing exactly what their job requires of them. Um, we always think that giving more is better, especially with regard to work.
Mhm.
But I would dare say that your job is not just to give as much as you can. Your job is to contribute strategically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I can give 60, 80 hours a week and then have very little progress long term to show for it, especially with safety and building a safety management system. Now, if I'm just thinking of myself as a safety management system, I've realized that that is not sustainable,
Right.
right? The
Right.
safety management system takes teamwork, it takes processes, it takes training, it takes a lot of long-term thinking about how do we get from point A to point B, how do we set goals realistically but
Yeah.
ambitiously, and how do we get everybody engaged and get them what they need to do this and be successful, right? And
Yeah.
part of that is, of course, human nature and making it as convenient as possible so that they don't have to overthink. They don't have to risk making unnecessary mistakes, human error.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of employers, a lot of companies are still kind of stuck in the time equates to progress instead of realizing that time doesn't necessarily equate to progress. A lot of people are going nowhere fast.
Mhm.
right? I would
Mhm.
rather someone who is strategic and can use a little bit of time very, very well than
Yep.
someone who's going to use a whole bunch of time very poorly,
Yep.
right? And I think maybe it comes back down to quality and efficiency, and
Yep.
to some extent, right? Um,
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of not simply doing something for doing its sake, kind of like the ham butt theory. Like, why are we cutting the butt off the ham? That's good meat. We're
Yeah.
just doing it because grandma did it. Well, that's not enough. At some point, we need to sort of stop and evaluate, what do we have to show for our efforts? And
Yeah.
if we don't have enough to show for our efforts, it is a clear litmus test that something probably needs to change. And it's probably going to
Absolutely.
take time for a lot of jobs to transition away from just thinking simply in terms of, hours. Now, on the flip side of that, I do get that some more labor intensive jobs that
Mhm.
require less strategic thinking or complex decisions. You really just maybe need somebody to push a button or operate something. Even then, just from a business standpoint, I understand that you're trying to make a profit. That means that you're trying to minimize your operational costs, your
Mm.
overhead. So the more you can squeeze out of the lemon, the more juice you get from one lemon, the less lemons you end up using for a gallon of lemonade, right?
Right.
But there has to be a balance, because most people, when you take that sort of correlation, they forget that humans are not lemons.
Yeah.
That's the key part. Humans are not lemons. We can't just be squeezed for every ounce that we have, right? Humans are more so like trees, right? We need to be taken care of in return for the fruit.
Yeah.
The better you take care of that tree, you give it what it needs, the better it can focus on making you the fruit that you need in return. But the fruit is the last thing to grow on the tree, right? So a lot of people probably think, hey, very transactional. I give you this, give me this. Well, no, we're dealing with humans. Humans are not machines. Humans are not a commodity, right? We
Mhm.
we have to start putting more of a human element in our perspective when dealing with labor.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I am mindful of our time and I know we're coming to the end. It was great to hear about, your life coming from Trinidad, coming into school, and then your journey into environmental health and safety. You know, I enjoyed listening to how you were sharing about, as an immigrant, you started at an external point of view because you were starting to do labor, lining up at 6 a.m., looking for that job, whatever job it might be that you might be picked, to where you are now, remembering those days of what it was like working with those other individuals and figuring out how can you make work better for those who are now doing those jobs. So it's been a wonderful story that you've shared with us, you know.
Yeah.
And also, what I heard from you is that, you know, for those people out there who are in the mindset of doing whatever it takes to get the job done, to remind themselves to take a step back and protect yourself. Because as you said, like we're all trees and we need to be fed so that we can grow. So it's not about just taking that one lemon and using that
Mhm.
one lemon. Humans are more complex.
Very much so.
So look after the humans that you're working with so that they can grow and be plentiful in the
Most
foods
definitely.
that are being bared. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, if you take care of the employees will take care of your customers.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, check out Safepedia if you're looking for safety resources. And we've got webinars coming out weekly, so check that out. And until next time, stay safe.